The Kenyan stands to be stripped of her title after testing positive for a banned substance. This morning, a new doping scandal rocking the running world and raising questions about systemic cheating among Kenyan runners who've dominated the sport in recent years. Kenya's Diana Kipyokei, the winner of the 2021 Boston Marathon, now not only in danger of losing her title, but a possible multi-year suspension.
Over and over again, we've seen this where it's one athlete, then another, and pretty soon you find out it is systemic cheating within a country or within a certain sport.
Kipyokei's suspension marks the 10th Kenyan athlete to test positive this year. The Athletics Integrity Unit, known as AIU, says Kipyokei has been provisionally suspended for using the banned substance triamcinolone acetonide.
Alrighty guys, welcome to the video. So you've just seen another Kenyan athlete test positive for doping, but specifically triamcinolone acetate. So this is a corticosteroid. What does that mean? It's a derivative of the hormone cortisone. So intramuscular injection, a glucocorticoid. Essentially, what are the benefits of an athlete taking this substance? It's going to, improve breathing, respiratory function. It's going to decrease inflammation and swelling. It's going to lead to improved recovery. Therefore, essentially what happens when we're in a state of stress, our body releases cortisone, and this reduces inflammation, swelling. It helps us get through the acute stressful experiences that we're going through. If we're sick, we're going to have high cortisol levels. It's going to lead to improved recovery. Obviously, long-term, this is not something you want to be having in your system chronically because it's going to suppress the immune system. It's going to lead to bone loss over time. It's going to lead to muscle loss over time and probably fat accumulation over time. But in the short term, it can lead to weight loss due to increased mobilization of fatty tissue and increased blood glucose levels, which is, of course, going to be another performance-enhancing benefit. One performance-enhancing benefit in particular is going to be the euphoria or the mood effects. Now, long-term, many people who take cortisone do notice a decrease in mood, an increase in anxiety, some depression, but in the short run, it can definitely lead to euphoria. So taken before an event, taken in the weeks prior, or even just during training, obviously improve recovery, better training, adaptations, etc. This is definitely a performance-enhancing substance, no matter what anyone says, One thing that's interesting, this is the substance that there was controversy around with Bradley Wiggins and his TUE for it. During his Tour de France win. It was also the substance that Lance Armstrong tested positive for in 1999 during his Tour de France, and then retroactively backdated a prescription for a steroid cream that was applied for a saddle sore and essentially got away with it. Now, so many athletes there have been a few high-profile cases of athletes receiving therapeutic use exemptions for this. So all this Kenyan athlete runner, all she had to do was essentially, with her doctor, apply for a therapeutic use exemption. And this is the crazy thing. You apply for a therapeutic use exemption based on allergies, based on respiratory problems. It's needed medically. All she had to do was do that with a doctor. And if it was done and approved, she could have taken this legally and there would never have been a problem with it being in her system. Obviously didn't have a therapeutic use exemption or didn't apply for one or whatever, and essentially now is facing the potential of a 4-year ban. All of her, earnings, income, etc. from the race will be taken away and, pretty dire consequences for her career. How long can you be a professional runner for? Not all that long, and 4 years out of the sport is huge. It will be, almost career ending because you're going to have to go back to Kenya and keep doing what you were doing. So devastating for this athlete, but, unfair in the sense that so many athletes get therapeutic use exemptions for this drug, very common. And yeah, the problem could have been averted if the TUE was obtained, but it wasn't. So, this highlights again, I think, obviously performance enhancing drugs are huge in sports and they do drive performances that the public and the consumer of sport want to see. EPO only has a half-life of, if done intravenously in microdoses, 4 to 6 hours. So extrapolate that out, 4 to 6 hours later, half the drug's remaining, another 4 to 6 hours, half of that, so a quarter is remaining, and you can kind of determine the detection time. It's only going to be detectable for like a day or so on. And of course, you know, the benefits of EPO, for example, aren't necessarily in the race itself. They are for, you know, during training, getting the hemoglobin and hematocrit up, during training, getting those benefits, and then once you've kind of, you know, once you're kind of going into the race, coming off the drug, and, you know, your hematocrit and hemoglobin doesn't drop down within a week. You know, it stays elevated for quite some time. Red blood cells have a half-life of, have a life of months. So, you know, these benefits are getting being received in training, and then athletes are rocking up to the races absolutely clean. You know, the drug's no longer in their system. So there are ways around it, particularly, you know, we know the anti-doping controls in Kenya aren't all that stringent, if any. Obviously they happen, but, you know, it's a third world country. So athletes are doping and getting away with it during training, rocking up to races clean and racing and having no dramas at all. But this cortisone or intramuscular cortisone injection, for example, is definitely a fascinating case, because had the athlete merely just applied for a therapeutic use exemption like others have done in the past, it could have been averted. But also we see that, you know, therefore lies the, I guess, discrepancy between a high-profile athlete, Bradley Wiggins, on a professional cycling team with a doctor who is paid a lot of money and knows what they're doing in applying for a therapeutic use exemption, maybe then the doctor that this athlete was, you know, under. So it's one of those things. It's definitely doping, but other athletes have legally done it in the past for this same substance and had no dramas. So it's definitely an ethical dilemma. And, you know, obviously something that goes on a lot, something that could have been avoided on her behalf. And now, essentially, because she's gone positive for it, though, didn't have a therapeutic use exemption, but essentially career ending. So, you know, it's one of those things that we've seen many, many Kenyan athletes go positive in the last 6 months, year. There's been half a dozen or a dozen athletes, high-profile Kenyan or higher-profile Kenyan athletes going positive, and we just keep seeing it happen. But, you know, the last one that I reported on was for I believe it was for a diuretic, and, you know, somewhat like some would say that's a masking agent. Oh no, that was during the Commonwealth Games. What was it for? It was for heart medication, you know. So I don't know, guys. You know, this happens a lot. Obviously, let me know what you guys think. Give me your opinions in the comments. But I think it's an unfortunate case for this athlete. It doesn't make it right from an ethical perspective that this compound was in a system. But many athletes have been found with this compound in their system, obtained a therapeutic use exemption, and because of that, had no dramas at all. So that's that. Cortisone injections, very, very common in professional sports, particularly endurance, because they are very performance enhancing. Does not mean that anyone should be doing it, particularly in the long run, because it's not something which is sustainable. So take care, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. I'll see you in the next video.